We all have moments in life that change us forever. One of mine just happened to be at 3 a.m. in a hot tub at a clothing optional camp outside of Jamestown, New York. That's when I discovered that most naturists and nudists tend to be extremely body positive and accepting of others for who they are. This was a very different experience for someone who struggled with depression, body image, and self-esteem issues. If you would have asked me years ago, I never would have gone to any sort of a nudist place. I've been shamed about my weight my entire life. So why on earth would I put myself in my most vulnerable state with absolutely nothing to hide behind? People have nightmares like that. But after that first experience, I was so overwhelmed with how I was simply embraced for who I was that I knew I needed to explore the idea more. We all hide behind things. Our job, our clothes, the mask we put on before we head out for the day. Sometimes it seems like it's easier to be someone we're not, to hide our authentic selves from others. Sometimes we just don't like who we are. For 30-some years, I didn't like myself. Depression, social anxiety, introversion, bullying. Those are all a part of my everyday life. And when I started dating, I was in several mentally and physically abusive relationships that only served to nurture the hate. I believed what I was told and what I told myself, that I was worthless and that I deserved how I was being treated. In my darkest moment, I lay on the couch, crying, and I told myself I was a failure to God, a waste of precious life. That was my wake-up call that I needed help. Deep down, I knew I was a pretty amazing person. I just needed to find her and to celebrate her. I was tired of hiding behind walls and masks, and so very tired of trying to be someone I wasn't. I sought out some of the typical things: counseling, a life coach, antidepressants. But I also knew that I needed to make a bigger change, a change from within. Professionally, I forced myself into situations that pushed myself way outside of my comfort zone. And when I survived, because that's what it felt like originally, survival, I would literally pat myself on the back, providing encouragement and positive enforcement, and shouting over the inner voices in my head that were so used to tearing me down. Everything I did, leading projects, speaking at events, were all ways to try to find my true value. While I made changes to myself on a professional level, I also found ways to make myself a better human being. Some of the things that I did, like going solo to group activities, might not seem like much of a big deal for most people, But for someone with social anxiety, just leaving the house can be a challenge. I started playing African hand drums with my mom several years ago, and she told me about a women's drumming workshop that was held at a clothing optional camp. Hand drumming is such a powerful, emotional, and spiritual experience that we were willing to go, so long as we could remain clothed. That weekend, I was introduced to some of the most amazing people, huge bonfires, and drumming through the night. I was also introduced to people who were simply comfortable in their own skin. And I was able to realize that they really didn't look any different than me. People of all shapes and sizes, just happy to be alive and enjoying each other's company. It was about a year later that I had that moment, the one in the hot tub at 3 a.m., when I chose to leave my suit in the tent. And since then, there's been no looking back. So fast forward to this year. In July, I participated in the second annual Body Painting Day in New York City. There were about 80 artists, 100 human canvases, and thousands of spectators. We were painted in a public park, separated from the crowd by a barrier tape. The air was full of excited conversation, laughter, street noises, and a constant click, 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 click of cameras. I have never seen so many cameras. Once painted, we walked through the streets of New York, boarded double-decker buses, and toured the city, stopping off at various places for group photos and to interact with the crowd. We were even able to have an impromptu dance party when we came up along a street performer who was playing Snow by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. We would have liked to have left him a donation. We didn't really have anywhere to hold money, so I hope we made his day better somehow. The reactions of the crowd were priceless, typically starting with shock and confusion, then curiosity, then shy smiles and cheering us on. And the skill of the artists was evident in every body that was painted. Everyone was a work of art. But the event was far more than just being painted. It was to raise awareness that all bodies are beautiful, and to show that the idea of nudity is far more shocking than the nudity itself. Each person was a living canvas, moving and breathing with the paint. And each had their own moment. It was life-changing for everyone that took part. Nothing happens overnight. It was about 10 years ago that I had that moment in the hot tub. Since then, I've continued to push myself in my career and grow as a person. I've also continued to seek out events and opportunities that not only challenge my mind, but my beliefs. We're never done learning, growing, and experiencing. So next July, I will again be in the streets of New York City participating in Body Painting Day. Who wants to join me? I promise a life-changing moment.